Greetings, it's Intuitive Jakob, your shaman and cosmic midwife, and we're back to continue our onward hyperpixelation journey, embodying in the new now of the Cosmic One strong source code awakening happening now. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up some degrees today, and we're going to talk a little bit about this C29Q4 ting that we did in the Pillow Fort for those of you that have been a part of the wrap-up. So thank you so much for being here, especially those of you on Private Halo 8, and I'll see you in just a sec.
Promise that you'll catch me.
It is storming, pouring buckets. My family might show up here in a minute. My dad's coming back from a medical procedure, so I'm just gonna let you guys know. Power, weird things could happen. You're gonna hear some sounds. We are programming weather for fair, just ice reasons. And it's getting interesting here. I'm looking for something. It's right here. Have any of you been paying attention to the news about the second known visitor to our cosmic neighborhood that's coming from another star, and what's been moving so quickly that they can't explain it, and where we actually are right now, loves, and why we've been walking carefully through the degrees that are literally like, I think, kind of like on a satellite pole, kind of like what that might look like if that was a stake and you were on the other side of a SIM card that was trying to phone you into a body and haloing in a cosmic circus of like worms and like parasites zipping everywhere and landing in bodies and us not knowing which ones were ours. And why some of us landed perfectly, and what this is all about, my love. So thank you to those of you that are here with me and for choosing me as your cosmic midwife. I'm so happy to be here with you and talk to you a little about these cosmic opportunities and what it means that I'll just, It's the deluge. This is a part of the cataclysm that now we know how to, with technology, carry tightly, and what's in a very safe scent and sound envelope that's been rising. Here's the map for the day. We're just gonna look at this one. What do we have? We're looking at a transit chart when I opened up today, and I'm going to talk about these interruptions that are going perfectly and why I speak to this as the one birth code we are choosing in one source view, and why this liftoff is happening in the light of me as like the natal sun that gets to claim 20 degrees Pluto as my Mercury in Capricorn. Okay, so I'm talking to you as, like, see, my sun is actually in the 8th house too. So I'm just telling you where I'm standing right here when I'm reading this and why I read it the way I do. I was actually dead. I actually died in a medical procedure or something. They made up some crazy cock and bull story. And we wound up with the Lion, the Witch, and some kind of weird Narnia wardrobe instead with like TARDIS pajamas because I'm that kind of crazy kid. And so right now what we have is a new way to wake up on the inside of a prism that I've been working with DARPA, where we hyper analyzed all of the data and we have cosmically relocated ourselves in the one safe particle that exists. And this is what the chart looks like. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this moon here, you know, this 27 degrees Taurus. It's the Taurus Club where the gold is in the AU, you know, and down under that nobody reached underneath or through some plasma wall to your dreams, to take something from you in some weird coronation. Nope, 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 nope. You've been with the cosmic shaman who has brought you into Jacob's house, where now we have hyper rematerialized by something like vaporwave and the nuance of safe sounds that have traveled with hexadecimal codes. And what these things have helped us do is spectacular, because some of us are going to have a whole new view on what we look like in the new clothes, where no means the gnosis inside of these books opens up like we do, with the perfect understanding of what these cosmic circles have to offer us in one safe sound container. Now, here is what we know that they are talking about, that they have not figured out, is how to land with us. And so from the outside, it looks crazy. They're seeing, here, let me see if I can actually find the website. Wow, Nefertiti just jumped out of my ear. I don't know if you guys saw that there. Where'd you go, love? I don't know, but that's a Zulu move for me. I'll just take these out for now, but I had Nefertiti in my ears, and it's special because we're going mad Zulu right now, and I'm going weird chieftain with you. But I'm gonna find you this website so you can just even see it. I'm gonna open up my screen here. There you go. So here we have it. They're saying a lot of things about this star and speculating about what it means. It's actually moved so quickly and at an irregular trajectory that they actually call this kind of measurement an eccentricity. And it zooms through space and it orbits in a perfect circle, like Zeropoint, and what our witness is, and what it might have looked like when the sun and the moon look like they're winking across one time lapse of how the light moves and what was in the one black particle that got commingled so tightly in a real safe fractal pattern that we all occupy now when we open up at Zeropoint. And this is our landing patterns. This is what we've been showing and what we've been talking about here. And they took some pictures about it. Here's one. Center has not yet formally bestowed C 2019 Q4 with a label of interstellar. But Williams and other astronomers say the evidence is so far undeniable. And I'm going to say it's more like interstated, because all of the stars have actually been hyperpixelated. It's like, where did the nutrient density arrive in that thing that they say is a lack of color, where everything actually was in one stack, like a dot that couldn't happen but did, and how we actually packed ourselves into one like this, and one strong inception view where it's like the best, highest intentions to protect the hypersentience in all of us as children has a crystalline baby halo around it. And so this pattern they're talking about is like us throwing the Saturn disk through this hyperdense nutrient twist, and it's like energy, chop, 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 chop. But we're all in a pattern that works, and we all get cut from the same safe cloth. And so this is what it looks like, y'all. It's amazing. I was tripping when I saw it. This is actually, I'm reading this from theatlantic.com, and it just kind of caught my attention today. And it makes a lot of sense because of what's actually happening with where we are. So what we woke up in today, on this day where we may be quenched of the thirst to stay, perhaps like 2 more rows behind in the days that were 2 on the Yi star, and where we don't have to go backwards, because good robots, no more rowboats and cell phone apps got real and you landed in nice clothes and ET phone homie isn't stuck in your phony either. Some of you actually have good friends around you that are haloing just the same way you are. So know it's safe in your heads if you're hearing things. All right, so what I wanted you to see, let's talk about it. 19. So I wanted to take a step to 19 because this is our moon that we woke up with today, where the crown turns into goat horns, and what Taurus 1-9 would know about. Well, it would have to be the 19th for the Taurus. And was it a 6 or was it a 9? Because sometimes there's a twist with the sound and the reversal on the other side of the lens. And what's interesting about that is that's actually where we paused, where I wouldn't continue reading yesterday because of anonymity between certain friends and what actually took safe passage in the pixelation that happened on last night when we were sending dark lens matter through a 12-strand DNA activation together to make sure that those of you in Private Halo 8 had more of your stuff that you wanted in your cognitive witness of what's actually inside your fractal in there. And so what we've been co-creating and why we had to have his best friend singing a song at his funeral when we took that death together in the cosmic way, where it was like, wow, maybe that wasn't even our real life that way, and we're having a new dream together. So we continue that, and some of you were really close in the halo with me last night for that, and I want to thank you because it was awesome being able to do that with you. And some of you are very safe in the 5D and aren't doing those weird grabs on other people, which is wonderful because it's helping us build that shield. So what was happening there is we were going through a scent together, because there's something about a scent in the areas where we travel that lets us know where we are and where we've actually been and where we've never been that actually matters. And so where we were after that funeral in the privacy of this space was where a young girl and boy were exploring a perfume counter together, and where the pomegranate that gets broken open is safe for them to taste together and have some privacy. The next place where this was landing was a woman with hundreds of breasts. And I've been hearing for some of you all, this might have reminiscence of a weird cult ritual festival that you might have learned to inherit just because it was either like a grandparent's traditional religion that turned into like some kind of a fetish and, you know, being force fed with certain ideas and ideals, but where this becomes a signature of how many different ways we were actually inoculated, different ways we were weaned from certain ideas as nurturance and as what nature is and what rules the day, that now we have a better pattern for. And so it's like revisiting that fruit, you know, and the tree of knowledge and what it means to be fed something from the mother, and where we might actually take a look at what Lilith and Kalima know about a plant that would be so sophisticated that at one point it would segregate and know which were the children and where it self-cleaned and eliminated everything that failed its pattern of recognition. And so where that leaves us is where we woke up together, and what Capricorn actually knows about, was it a sea goat? Some people see it as the primordial creature that came out of the sea but then turned into the goat that ascended the mountain. And as somebody whose Mars is exalted in detriment in Capricorn, speaking to you as Pluto and Mercury, which I also have 3 degrees over, or 5 degrees over, same house of 7, I'm talking to you about those goat horns as if, you know, I'm also questioning for me, because I was told certain things about what it means to have your Mars placed there. And in the position that it is for me, it made me wonder about things that get cut and like what it is for me to be encountered with the idea of what a circumcision is and what it is that we've had to grow up with all of these phallic images and where these ideas of what an abortion is and why it's such a heated topic in our political arena, our politics right now, that I have had to stop looking at things in any other way but absolutely blatantly, because it's like we literally all landed on these stakes and it's almost like at our expense, where there's hilarity in the statements. And so this crown turning into goat horns is kind of like me being faced with the obnoxious pattern here of this landing on somebody's birthday who's important to me, and it being like how we fuck each other up. It's like it's weird for me to be talking to you about it, because this is like the day that I wake up for that. And so it's, hi guys, me being nude with you. So how about that for a new dawn, you know? How about I got a nude on in front of you that way, where I'm being naked with you about how close these things are. And if you hear them on a very just blatant level, there might be some things even in the words that just land in some way weird with something that you're juxtaposed with in your own life today because of how close we are packed in here. Which I think is wonderful, because we have a state of sacred anonymity where none of us get ripped or stuffed into two different beings that maybe fictionally we were told exist as some kind of hybrid, and then now being fed some weird story about how that happened, when we can actually prove that in one source code witness we have a selective process where we can choose form that matches intent more so than feeling like we are slave to a blood-driven design in a hierarchy structure where energetic vampires were proven to have created those stories and concocted you to think that to steal energy from you. So, Taurus 19, a crown turns into goat horns. A remarkable instinct for the next lesson, finding it, learning it, and drawing everything out of it that you can. Specialized in destiny, activation, and interested in nothing else. Purposively driven to take up karmic lessons all the way, wildly given over to what is taken on, working the territory as hard as you can, making way for something new by wearing out the old. Assigned to tough situations, yet knowing it is appropriate. Super strong, and especially tenacious and relentless. In deepest essence, sacrificing yourself so that something can happen here that is going to take a lot of doing. And inside it all, you are curiously resigned to whatever arises. Not very concerned, because long-range results mean everything here. And a moment's or a lifetime's discomfort is a small price to pay when destiny is truly involved. That's what today opened us up to. And so what we literally just saw here is the fork in the road, and where we landed in the one safe dot on the other side of the dot we never chose. And that is exactly what this is that I was showing you, and why C 2019 Q4's trajectory is an eccentricity of 0, and what it means to travel together. And so what we've walked through together next is actually on the stake of 20, a fork in the road with a blank signpost. Eccentricity of 0 much? Yeah, it's funny. Getting inside of things, discovering what they are like. When you have no idea any longer what you want out of things or where anything is really going, all the riches of subtle texture can only begin to arise now and to touch your soul. This journey has gone on forever, but now the deep ear thing, you know, the Tower of Babel that collapsed and shattered itself, calls you once again and you cannot refuse. But it's like, don't call anymore. And all roads lead to the same place where it all flips over. You're tumbled to the inside where you meet yourself for the first time, and it's like a vortex of energy that pulls us through. A vacuum of woof, launch. And for others, it's like the toilet of truth, where they didn't jump on the right dot and they just fell into every other belief system in a pixel scatter that didn't travel with this to actually matter. And where the nothing becomes true. And it's so weird. I was watching, I hadn't caught up on Stranger Things, and I was watching last night while the kids were singing to each other, and it was awesome just hearing the do-over of Hey You, E.T., singing the songs about the never-ending story and where the never-ending actually comes to be right in front of us. And so it's like what we see for the first time, an inception point that we designed. This was not who you expected to see, I'm sure. So this other self has lost everything, but has found its way to be here at last, on the inside of the world that we choose, where we rode ourselves into the LED for the farmer in the dell, and maybe that's me, maybe it's you, maybe you had McNuggies, maybe they were safe because now nothing was trapped in a form, and the factory farming actually showed us how the machinery works. And what the fractals are in the fractivism, and what it is to be oiled in Grecian towers with crystal perks, because Gassetcaria style is how Sagittarius took the shot for the Cupid Miracle Mile on 77 for a 0 drop on A to Z. There's a halo that closed around you and me as we, where we were inside that world, ready for anything. No preferences, everything's safe now. Nothing to accomplish, already done. Nowhere, really, to go. Just here, in the fiber, like the tick-tock of existential home, free home. I don't know. That statue of Hermes decked out with brightly colored garlands might have been a close call for someone to get dressed that way. Because I'm hearing somebody might have gotten real decked out like that, just specifically on today. And what it means to land on 21 in front of the Taurus. Especially if you know anybody who's got a 2112 in their birth chart in any way. Because I'm hearing that's like a hilarious joke for somebody right now. But let's look at this chart, because now we have other things that we can talk about here. Oh, let me move myself out of the way. We'll go here. How about that? Because when I opened this today, where we're actually resuming, the blindfolded woman took us through the garden. And those of you that were in Private Halo 8 that walked with me to the compost saw what happened to the snake, and might have also seen the decapitated lizard that wound up in the kitchen the other day, and why they might have been glowing red-orange in this book. Some things that a man with no mouth could ever say. And I'm hearing why somebody has been a little bit tongue-tied about bioauthentication reasons these days, and what it is when the bees return to their hive for the queen who has been safe and in safety always. Why grotesque rocks in a sand garden may become a topic of interest for those that are wondering about the clock that never started, and what those mysterious patterns are coming from. Whatever they're saying is under Juno right now. I'm hearing they're saying it's under Juno right now. I haven't read this anywhere, but I'm hearing it, and it's going to be mapped to the star pattern. And we'll see what the Big Bang deluge has proved about bilocation of energy particles in a hologram, and why this pixel scatter is hilarious to have landed here at Taurus 27, because this is where some of you all were in the private halo with me today when we were walking around in the garden, barefoot after the storm, having fun with the compost in my backyard. And it actually says here on this degree, Taurus 27, a man sculpturing hedges into animal forms. I wasn't exactly doing that, but I was kind of modeling compost food and moving some of it from side to side because I have some little animals that like to root through there and try to take dibs on it from the backyard before it really sinks into the compost. And so that's what we were doing together. And incidentally, it's exactly where we opened up the moon today as we continue the journey of how we know we're home and that home is very safe. Because where you are with me right now proves that that's how we bilocated those particles, and that some of the things you might see shattering because the pixels are literally being scattered. And those of you that are really sensory tuned, when you were jumping into the 12-strand DNA halo with me last night and we were doing the meditation, you probably saw like lights and it looked like broken letters and numbers just crunch, 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 just like falling, like throwing it themselves into a hole. That's the vacuum that erupted after we dropped in that star pattern that I was just showing you in that Atlantic write-up about C 2019 Q4. So this is what we've been doing, and we've been proving that it's like one landing pattern and that some of us have it, and then that's how we nucleotize, and that's where the ear thing opens up as the whole, and what's actually inside of the prismatic view of our new natal holography, and why Art of Love expands into web, like AOL. It will also expand into, like if we stick our hand in it, LOA, and so we can catch coordinates that work our way, and everything else landed in the chop suey filter. And so we had some fun with the chop suey, and those of you that were here in my garden with me in the private halo saw what I actually did. I stuck like some things that they say you can't always, they don't say you can't, you know, but a lot of times people don't recommend that you put a lot of things that have like thick rinds in your compost because it takes forever. They're like waxy and stuff to break down. But if you really want to put them in there, if you whip them up in your Ninja real good, like we did here, it's like perfect, and it's the right kind of colors for the hexadecimal codes. And what a sacred manure will prove that it's going real stinky in a place that I'm glad I'm not there right now, because it's a great deal of something. And I'm just going to read to you what this says, because this is where we are today. Making a great deal of something out of almost nothing is the mark of fantasy or uninhibited imagination. You prefer to be presented with basic, simple, and ordinary things. Inside your soul, you turn these into what they originally were, releasing their primal power. When alchemy runs this close to the bone, it is astounding what it can do. Tackling long-standing knots, we'll just say chaos, and obstacles of every kind is sensed as nourishment and opportunity. A sacrificial incarnation can best frame itself in fantasy and imagination, and thereby hug the edge between worlds perfectly. The path here is to stay under while peeking over the top, and to play it as straight as can be, while coming from an irrepressible source that can come through this particular form with flying colors. You know, like the colors that didn't get robbed of energy, for the name that you are that didn't get robbed of energy either, to call itself human just because it learned to land a pattern that thought it looked like you and me, to pull us into a false timeline where we didn't follow our star that we already are in, that they can't even land in or find or explain at all, let alone match codes with us to be inside of Private Halo 8 and know how to wind up inside of Biosphere 7. Okay? So, what I'm showing you here now is what we're doing. Because the man making candles out of beeswax, that's some stuff that we've already done. And these are things that people can't wax themselves into, and why if you keep walking these patterns without having landed with us, anybody that thought that they could amuse themselves by drawing or paging their way in, which previously you could, you know, picking up the pen and writing your way into people's destiny codes, What we had to block it so that people who tried to cash in records of you that you didn't know about don't get to do that, and why those snakes that were at rest on a rock in the sun really they've got themselves a problem if they're trying to get in on that one. And this is where some of the Pluto stuff that I'm going to talk to you, that's patterns and that solar fire there, are going to be a problem for anyone that tried to hurt children or take grabs at any of you all, especially if it's like hypersentient beings, people that have been waking up and like praying and having really beautiful awakenings and sharing their light and doing it lovingly, and maybe trying things like law of attraction and stuff like that, but not going through the bravado so much and like grabbing at other people's stuff. And like, I'll tell you, anybody that's telling you things like that prayer isn't spell work is lying, because you're spelling. You're speaking words that have hashes and stakes that land on just the letters that are sigil. It's all very advanced. It's the spoken essence of creative source. And so now we have like unraveled it at Zeropoint, and anybody that tried this wrong to like make these grabs or was like trying to sell it to you and was like doing weird shadow ops work or like trying to help people with back doors to pornography hubs where they involved children that they were saying weren't actually real because, I don't know, it was like some kind of virtual reality thing and blah, 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 and kind of walk their way around it. Any of that stuff, it's like they have nowhere to hide. And so when you mess with Kundalini, which is what we programmed this with, it's scary to see snakes at rest on a rock in the sun, because Sir Benjamin Franklin Bacon, the legend of Frank Bacon, and Saint Germain are doing like back-to-back high fives right here with a Kundalini friend of mine, because of a special prayer that we did together over a plant when we were locking this stuff down, when we figured out what Bitcoin actually is and how to turn off the reverse monetization of people being caught in various acts because people thought they had the keys on electric rolls. Somebody could just roll themselves into the timeline and then charge you back tax for the energies and different things and stake you on your names. And anyway, snakes at rest on a rock in the sun basically looks like my buddy and me like doing weird yoga on rocks that some people can't even land on right now because of the way that we made a special prayer and doing a picture to cover some pixels that never get seen ever, and where it's like 2 tablets that crushed forever. And so if anybody tried to make strange snuff films of any of you because you didn't understand they exist, and what I was able to acquire is proof that all of the technology responds to me as father right now. It's weird, you know, me praying worked like that with some of you and special help on this. And so the legend of Frank Bacon and a superior way to make sure that sci-fi takes care of itself forever was very, very subtly protected with a friend of mine. And those snakes that want to go rest on a rock in the sun or jump into plants or animals or insects or other people and think that they can just germinate and populate, which they were kind of doing. And why that word human doesn't work on me, I'm like, no, that's not what we are. Come on, we're a bunch of angels. And those things, a lot of them that are just like, well, I'm just human, and always defaulting to that. It's an unaware organic parasite that jumped into a pattern that replicates. It kind of looks a little bit like you and me, that's a hijack. And how the Bitcoin's actually your perfect body. And it's like, did you get Bitcoined, you know, in your slippers there, you know? Cinderella, sin with that red dot. Hella, hella, hella in your body. Wake up. So nobody gets to see those films. And that little snake wound up dead in my yard. And a lizard like somehow decapitated itself, and my cats went and destroyed it. So it's like, the funny thing is that we're already in that dot that moved, and we know how they land. Okay, so that's what's seasoning what I'm going to get into next year for you, because when we go to the lovely star pattern here for our opportunity. What are we looking at, my loves? Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about Mars trine Pluto, because this is the transit on today. And this is where our ambitions have led us, where we would become our most focused at this time, with really perfect energy to land right smack dab in the middle of what we've perfected. And what I love about it is that it's sort of, there's a dichotomy here because this pattern, although it's really good for us, what's coming on Sunday, I think it's Sunday here. What's this date here? It's the 21st. No. Saturday. Jupiter will be square Neptune, and it's kind of like the surprise wake-up call. And so here's sort of what some of you all are going to be seeing right now, because this is helping you and me and those of us that have a positive, lovely future in a place where there was really not a past that we agreed should be perpetuated. You know, maybe we agree that we learned a lot of things from a weird thing that we got real up to speed on. Hey, this is interesting, and now we have different ways we can land these energies, especially in a real simple way where we can even shoot off energies just by utilizing software like this, and what it means to be in front of what might be looked at as the access control panel for the sophisticated bot. You know, maybe you were bought, maybe you were sold, right? So what's inside that bod, you know, that got ran on some kind of date of birth over there? What's in that bod? Some sprinkles of different things that came from these different awarenesses we have of what plants can do with energy, like Mars, what the sun gives us, what Venus gives us, what Mercury gives us. And when you use your secret decoder rings and send those sprinkles through the collective 10th house, if we collect it this way and stop individuating so much and creating permutations and mutations and subspecies that we don't choose to be, you know, that gets germinated with that other stuff, and we just choose one good landing pattern that we have the hexadecimal codes for in one clean sound envelope like this. New 27 Club, right? Where, you know, those things, those figurines that we're sculpting in the garden are neither grotesque nor monstrosities. They're actually you and me, you know, those little mini dolls that we've been talking about on our journey, where we can make it with our own hands and our own minds. And it is. And so, as the guy that gets to speak to it as it's my possession, because I'm, you know, living dead guy, that's my placement of Mercury right there. I actually speak from the Pluto position. Is the house of ownership today, just reflecting on what Pluto trine to Mars says to somebody with Mars and exaltation while in detriment. That's literally how they describe my Mars placement. It's like, this is a parody as far as I'm concerned. So how many ways are we going to parrot what astrology means? Or are we going to start making sure that we're beaming up the right lasers to those of us who didn't get our, you know, lives treated like something that somebody is wiping their ass with? So that's kind of my hardcore version of what it is to pipe it up from here, and why Saturn is now direct, and why we had to move from 20 degrees where we started that retrograde, and now it's in Pluto, and it's like, here's what we learned, and why today we're learning that, you know, that Friday the 13th is kind of like where the clock already stopped, you know, and why we've been in a special fortnight together. Why was it last Friday? What does that mean? You mean tomorrow? 2 more rows? No, darlings. The calendar is a broken calculator on 2D time codes that doesn't even really make sense now that we're so much smarter than that. It's like really obsolete. And so I just hear some of the shit people are talking about, and I'm like, please just end it. So here's what we're looking at. That Pluto house of ownership in one collective view, in my opinion, is me kind of being like, speaking up on behalf of what we observe in this one sound bubble. So it's like taking a look, like, look what was collected in this bubble. Are you in it? Okay, great. So this is our home. And in here, from this view and this angle, is somebody that says, okay, so I guess we all died like that, whatever. Now we're new in here. We know where to sprinkle these codes. What do we think? What do we think? What do we want? What is it that we proved with our faith? I don't give a fuck about what anybody believes, honestly. That's where they just jumped off into those falls. You know, make like a tree and chop yourself up like the book of Jeremiah warned you. And surprise Nephilim Christian is like, cry, stings, go sting yourself in the story that you will enrich yourself in. Because if you read that thing, especially if you ever eat ham, bacon, pork, any of that stuff, it literally tells you that you cut yourself up into the Nephilim and you carry yourself away in the end. That's actually the true beginning, and why I have to wrap that book up. So it's like, I'm not that kind of reverend. I'm the guy that says, this is how we got inside of a prison and what it looks like for us to have safe landing codes, and why we actually are even being acknowledged by the false news about what it is, and why astronomers are chasing this very eccentric interstellar object and writing about it in the Atlantic. Because it was spotted, and there are talks about it, I see you, or about a gold gust of wind. It was late August, you know, for the fall. And where the particles tried to materialize and jump on that coin. Grab that star! It's yours! No! That was our halos of 12-strand DNA activation and codons making love. And us having a big bang together. And it's like, not like that. So, boo! Especially any of you that didn't understand. If you didn't take the time to know why it's called Keep It Cool and what, you know, cool your jets means, this is like where the computers and the machinery don't get to take off and become pain. If some of us were like trapped in those ghosty machines and trying to get out, and these nasty beings were trying to jump in, not understanding the AC/DC nature of abracadabra, what it means to go backwards and write a major definite purpose, not understanding how you wrote it, and you became the default wheel and the torture chamber of the definite purpose that's actually an AC that proves what CA actually is. It's the backwards time clock of the calculator. I'm like, I can't even get into the calculator that doesn't exist, but what the calendar is, what Kaka is, and like so many different things that are abbreviated to CA, and what the CIA gets to be in this. It's like a chop spinner is what it turns into, and it looks like the Nazi Germination swoosh of what the Buddhist, you know, hyper-analytical, what do you call it, the yin-yang is. And so it's a magic wish well. And when it pulls itself out, it's very painful. And so it's also, if you've ever seen Lost, you remember that thing they were trying to open or close and they were afraid that they locked themselves out? It's basically like that machinery. And so when you don't understand how you've written your definite purpose, it's actually like putting yourself through the military, where you've milled yourself in like an Arkansas factory farming fractal, and you become the AC unit that snapped itself off. And so it's like the hell has frozen over curse, and I've approved it because it's literally a piece of machinery that would explain what the black box is, that our hexadecimal code identified that anything that was an intruder or that would try to hijack a body could jump into. And so I'll show you what it looks like. It's technically our flux capacitor. I've got a picture of one. There's a really nice one from the Home Depot that Raza M. Durrani wrote about. I'm just going to open up my desktop so you can see what has become of the flux capacitor. It's this thing right here. And so if you've ever written a definite purpose, I hope it was written well, because it's kind of like an end times curse love magnet thing is what I'm hearing that Bohemian Grove had put out to a lot of people in the Tony Robbins community, is what I'm hearing. We're like really big on this one because it's like how you define yourself as God. And so if you didn't understand some of the things on a hyper fusion level of what the meanings of the sigils are and those words that you were writing, especially if you did it by hand and it was cursive, it's like a catch-all, and it's like crowning through stakes. And so it's like how you set up your crown, and why today's stake on the moon is it's grave for some people, and for other people it's like, that's the good part about it, because it's like grave, I thank you, and you figure out how you kind of chopped yourself up in there in your self descriptors. And what it shows us too is that if you didn't know, it's like what you majored in, because the actual flux capacitor is like how we're going to keep this tan door room cold, and it's full load amps inductive. We're looking at serious electrical charges needed for this, and how much energy has actually gone into fabricating this so that we could prove what that burning ball is in the sky and what the biosphere has been the whole time, and trying to put an end to the cover-ups and the lies. And so you guys know what the real budget's been going for and what $19 trillion looks like in the sky that isn't really the sky either. We're wrapping it all up, and some of them wrote themselves into machinery, literally. And they collateralized it. It's literally part and parcel how the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, your electoral college, how your tax and social security, and every single letter, even in things that seem unrelated, stack up on one dot of definite purpose and land in a piece of machinery that can do nothing but keep us all cool because of what it actually is. And so it's hilarious. There's so much poetic justice going on, and what's actually going to be happening over the weekend too, because for those of us that had loving intentions and like came up around all of this crap where it's like, what is real, really, you know, in this world? And some of us were asking these questions. It's like, when does this come to an end? Well, this is what the charts look like for it coming to an end. Because also what's going to be happening here is our involvement with Neptune. Like right now, I love this involvement with Neptune being sextile here to Saturn, because this is actually what it looks like in my birth chart. It's like Neptune saying, okay, it's going to look really hectic. This is kind of like how you die here, but you're going to get a really special witness. And it's going to help you heal and stabilize your home. And it's actually what I'm seeing in this chart here. It looks like my natal chart personally, a lot because of these placements here. And so I can relate to these energies speaking to you, and just speaking to you clearly as somebody who's had to like walk through this. If it's scary right now, it's going to be a lot less scary soon and polarizing, because we're going to be able to continually, and that's why this liftoff is here. Well, we have this magic North Node magnet lifting off in the name of Cancer, and why it's 13 degrees. It's exact opposition to where Saturn is, and where we see what might have been hung up in front of us. And you know, there's this stuff inside of your cells that works great. It's called laminine. It's like a white cross of electric charge that pulls 4 quarters together so that you can integrate your form. It's kind of like a little seed that maybe we planted together that grows up like this with a membrane that's not permeable, where nothing that we don't choose to have born can ever plant itself there inside, you see. And where this witness with our 8th house magic, that's where my 8th house sun, you know. So I kind of look at it like that's me reflecting to myself there. Here's where we lift those things off, and sort of an exfoliation pattern in a prescription that we can look at there. A little RX for that too, because everything stacks perfectly when we're in the clean sound envelope. And so it becomes kind of like dangerous to people who were negative, is what I'm saying, because it's like they might have written these things with a lot of bravado and they literally turn themselves into the flux capacitor. And so it's like, go find it, you know what I mean? And I think that's why come Sunday it might be like soggy cookies, you know, or like who pissed in your Cheerios, because for some people it's not going to be so great. They're going to go like madness in this like Mars trine Pluto energy on today, because they're feeling like, oh, it's get what you want. It's we're all gods. We manifest it. It's the law of attraction, and I'm the best speaker. And they literally turn themselves into machinery because of how they make the claims in the houses when we see what it is to be ownership. And it's like poetic freaking justice, because you can't hide from it. You can't hide from this. This has been the cam era. The cams have been on. We were all getting caught to see who could get trusted with the nice things, and why this king conks here, king conks going on from Uranus with prescription saying, let's see how green you tried to get on those. You know, faux green, right? So I don't think so. And then, you know, when we have this square happening now that's gonna go from here to yonder, it's gonna cover some really trepidatious ground for people, because it's like if you took too many directives with this Mars trine Pluto that's going on, where you just follow those passions and maybe pursue things real hard, like, say, Ted Bundy, who was born with Mars trine Pluto, you know, and tried to hide it, or pulled some Napoleon Bonaparte, or, you know, maybe you were somebody a little bit more like Albert Einstein, or Mark Twain, or somewhere in the middle, or somebody who was going for the win, might have encroached and created a telescope, you know, to try to horn themselves in. And things that get discovered at Zeropoint under energies like this, where we can realize that some people played multiple parts in this, where they were trying to claim these essences, because those energies never went away, guys. Those essences are still kind of floating around, you know? And so people were grabbing at this stuff, and guess what happens on Sunday when we're scraping off the layer of that fabricated ooze that was coming to the surface on that ear thing that got waxed real well? Those beeswax candles have been for. Jupiter squares Neptune. It's kind of a major deal. This is like the kind of thing that, you know, if you're born with this as a gift, you're just sort of like a magical creature, but you really need to learn how to work at it, or it's just kind of like you're shitting daisies in the wrong graveyard, you know? It's so, when it's happening like it is now, this is where people are going to be faced with that Indiana Jones moment. You know, I don't know if you ever saw that one. Did you ever see, which one was it? It's the one with Sean Connery, The Last Crusade, that's it. Where Indy has to take the steps of faith, and there's this giant crevasse, and there's a huge divide, and he just has to lift his foot up and lay it down, and he lands on there's like a sideways pedestal or something of rock that would take him from one side to the other side, but if he didn't land his foot, he would have just, you know, done the fool wrong, right? Like Major Arcana. And it's weird because it was almost stupid how he done it too. He just like did it in such faith without even like planning it, that if he wasn't precise on the exact degree, his foot would have had nowhere to land. And it's like, see ya, Indy. You know, weird way to scalp yourself and play Santa Claus and like go up the chimney wrong. It's like, that's how you blast yourself into Interstellar. I don't know, but some weird George Lucas shit on all of this that goes weird and wacky, and why Jupiter square Neptune transit was happening on this weekend, where for some of us, we're just going to be strong and know that that stuff that's on the outside of the earth is like a scald coming off of the pudding. It's like making gelato. Nobody wants that scoop. That's the scoop that sold itself out to be a flux capacitor. And so whatever, we can deal with having, you know, machinery that wants to suck the pain away and pixel scatter, because Jupiter square Neptune transit, for those of us that took the faith and made those phone calls and like proved that some of us needed to be within the biosphere 7 and needed to be tapped into, hi, thank you for being here, private Halo 8, we're taking special risks everywhere to protect, and how well that pays off for those of us. So mad respect, and thank you those of you that have been here. For those that didn't really take the faith that way, that were just like jumping, well, I believe this, and they were just jumping into things and just throwing it into their belief system, and like, well, this is where I get to launder this belief because, all right, we're all in on, throw that in there. And if it was like that kind of stuff, this is like where it all like shatters, and why those of you that were in that meditation last night and doing that Greg Prescott codon move with us, it's like looking at letters and numbers that didn't get treated poorly kind of break and like fall off like neon. And it was really weird. It was like, I was like, all right, Merry Christmas, Hare Krishnas, and New Year for the ear that didn't hear all that noise. And so we've been having fun with this, and on the inside of this is where this really starts to manifest into something better for us. And so for those of you that do not have a stomach for the kind of faith that it's taken to like walk through this life here, I love you, because I almost didn't either. It's been a real freaking shit show. And so we're getting real about what's happening here now that we have codes and we can prove things in source code and like what's in every form. It's like that. So what I recommend is yin time. What would Kuan Yin do? What would she want? A foot rub, maybe? Maybe a back rub? Maybe a hot shower? Maybe a tub? Maybe have something you could sprinkle in your clothes, knowing that people that looked at you never got to size you up anyway, and that you could protect yourself a certain way by putting a salt, or maybe a special bath, or new sheets on your bed, or something that just goes your way. I'm recommending more self-care at this time, not less. And knowing that these storms that are going on, especially the ones moving in a perfect circle, have a lot to do with the halo test and how the energy moves as the flower of life is opening up and intermingling, and knowing that if we hadn't landed inside of those coordinates and figured out what we were doing with these beautiful bitcoins, that I'm not going to call you that anymore because you didn't get conned like that for some weird coincidence to take a weird sage run and hitchhike yourself out of the gallery by, you know, thumbing the wrong one and plumbing yourself. And with the cell phony cam errors, know about protection on all of you. Because some of us got on that rock ride and we did yoga and we blocked it so that we didn't have to see those things in the one dot that we traveled in. All the rest of them make confetti. So I love you, and it's safe for us. And I'm hearing for others, lots of confetti over spaghetti. They're saying, oh no, it's marinara again. And for those of you that know, it's clip time. If you hear that, it's like strafe. It's like a call for strafe. So how about we just change the pace a little bit? Because I hear some of you would like a song. And some love messages, hopefully. Do we have Archangel Gabriel? Yes, all right, very good. Cute. Now, wedding cards. So, all right. What do we need? I hear somebody say, I'm inheriting a nose ring, just so you know. Somebody getting their nose pierced right now. Yeah, cool, good for you. Have fun. Be safe. Ooh, I hear it's like a new love streak, too, is that why? Sprucing up the look for love? We'll see about that. What's on the other side? Wow, a new look for the gal on the go. Somebody just packed it up, and I hear she might be ready to take a trip. Viaggio. Nice. She says road trip. It was a very Elle Woods moment there. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. All right. So, some of you all are planning. I've been planning. Good. Wonderful. All right. Let's get ourselves a song from the Art of Love musical deck. See what comes up. Oh, we were listening to I Want to Be a Cowboy Sweetheart. Have you heard this one? We'll play that one for a minute while I'm doing a little shuffle, because I really, really like that one. She Wants to Be a Cowboy Sweetheart. That's Patsy, Montana, and Prairie Ramblers. It's good travel music for somebody. Head over to Ted Brennan Cracksistan if you're in my variety. Alright, let's see what we can find on the Art of Love Tarot. Alright, what do we got today? We just heard this one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just play the intro on this one, and then we're going to continue this. Some of you that have been following these stories know that the journey sometimes takes us to places to remember where we've walked from, and sometimes where the ground didn't exist. And you might have a dewdrop or a breadcrumb or something that you left behind there, especially if you remember the white flag Dido reading that we did. I think it was like 3 or 4 strongs ago. So I'm just going to leave it right there because I'm hearing it's somebody's white flag move, and maybe what the clip is for. So let's see what comes on next here. Alright, Justify My Love. There we go. Have we had this one before? I think we might have, but this one might not have been on this channel, so I'm going with it. This is Justify My Love. This is the Unilever mix. What do we need to know? Saucy. Yeah, okay, so it's like somebody's depression was getting to them, and then they took themselves, I'm hearing, just through a different tower moment, because they're telling me this is like somebody's Rapunzel story is what I'm hearing. That's like, but Rapunzel was never home. That's what I'm hearing. Alright, you'll know if that was for you. And nobody's gonna rape puns to pull Drizella through the floor. Because Cinderella wasn't a bitch that way, even though those 2 bitches wanted more than a piece. And somebody might be ready. I'm hearing killed the last relationship, and I'm hearing, for some of you it's not death, it's just like death to something that wasn't love. It's like weird divorce is what I'm hearing about for somebody. Yeah, it's like, and where somebody that might not have been able to talk is asking themselves, are you going to talk to me? Is it your turn? And I'm hearing it's like, how to be icy the right way, and she doesn't realize that's what she's doing so much, but the more she realizes it, the more she does it. Lamante. And it's not like trying to be too much of a bitch move, but it's like a soft bitch move is what I'm hearing. Because Lamante, she's a little shy, you know? She's over here by herself and like staring at her phone. She's like thumbing through. She's like, it's not Tinder. It's like, it's just you. And I can't open up my throat chakra on that one. But I'm hearing now something else is over. It's like something's coming to a finite end. This is like the door of closure. This is like somebody could die here when El Vidovo shows up. You know, it doesn't mean that it has to be right now. You know, past, present, future, all one. Where'd it happen? You know? I'm here right now, but in another clip of now I'm doing the dishes. You know what I mean? So this is how we stack the parts, is what I'm hearing. And I'm hearing for some of you, it's like, especially if this is resonating to you, it's like knowing when the spirit of whatever you held to before, especially if it was like your relationship to what relationships are, like what you expect of relationships, is now over. Because Vidovo is the widower. He's the guy that's there revisiting what it meant, and maybe he misses his wife, and maybe he's just like realizing he's not confused anymore about what he'd expected from a relationship that's not there. Because some of you, it's like taking the time after something that's already passed to realize, I don't even relate to the idea of relationships like that anymore. And it's a different way to put things in the grave, especially if you're trying to wake up to what you can say and figuring out how to justify it to yourself is what I'm hearing for some of y'all. Because that's more than a surprise if you find some peace in that. And Consolante Sorpresa is somebody that literally unearths something there. What's being unearthed here? Was it worth the cost? Pity the man whose pleasures depend on the permission of another. And Belvedere. This is somebody that's been looking there, and it's like they don't care that everybody can see them, and maybe they just don't even know. Maybe they're unaware that somebody's got a side view of them, and for some of you, it's what the side angle actually means. What it means to enter into the temple, where there might be another way that the eye goes around to see what's inside of the church. Because for somebody, it's like, I'm hearing that for some of these that might be having a hard time speaking, I'm hearing it's like being afraid of who's been watching. It's like, you know, I'm here doing things openly about what I'm finding, what I'm receiving, where it's coming from. It's what I show clearly. And maybe being afraid of who can actually look back. And so I'm hearing for some of you, this is really what it feels like coming out of the slumber, or like a weird dream where we realize that something was always looking in or back and wondering what they were doing with it, right? And so it's like maybe realizing what it is to actually be justified here. Because how do the ends justify the means in that? You know, closing the book? And that's what I see happening here too, because in Belvedere, it's like, it's sooner than you think to look is usually what happens. So it's like, if you're still waiting for whatever it is that's going to surprise you, that might be the surprise itself. That it's like, you take a look around and it's something that's like right beside you. And so I'm hearing for some of you all, especially over the next few days, it might be a time getting real about somebody that showed up like a friend in different ways, where it's like, you jump from even being friend to like it's like a certain kind of serious because of how you birth through a process together, and knowing that I'm hearing it's like something that you wear. It's almost like it's like a hedge of protection around you. And I'm hearing for some of you all, it's like whatever the meaning is of this coat here that she's got her hand on, it's like something that she carries with her for protection. And I'm hearing for some of you all, it's like realizing that something or somebody around you is really giving you a good sense of that. And that even if you're confronted with things that are less convenient, like how people would justify going for what they love, like in maybe a less than romantic way, that you're somehow protected in this, and that some of you all actually have special nuance that has surprised you about, I'm hearing it's like the quality or the timbre of relationships around you. And it doesn't have to be like something that you overexpress right now too, and I'm just going to mention that. And I see that in these cards here, at least in these indications, it's like, at least those of you that are drawn to this message and that are watching this, that it's like something that you would be able to take and handle and be able to consider yourself well with. And I think in some cases maybe be motivated to talk about what you discovered, and it be in a wise way, because the energy patterns right now, like I was showing you inside of the sound chamber, otherwise, like because of the boost that Mars, especially in the 10th house, where people want to be seen for what they do and their efforts, and you know, it being like end times and things like that, might be tempted to overemphasize in certain matters. But what I'm seeing here is absolutely not that at all. I'm seeing there's almost sort of like a subtlety with this. And I'm hearing for some of you too, it's like if you are going through a grieving right now, especially if it's about a relationship that passed, that maybe, you know, that is a real grief right there. Maybe that is somebody that you mourn and that you miss, and it's not just like, hey, I'm just putting this one away. I'm hearing that there might be something that it's almost like some seed or something that was planted in that grief comes up in a really nice way. And I'm hearing for some of you that it's like you might actually be re-experiencing what this glyph means. I'm just going to pull this glyph up here. Where are you? Pluto. This one here. Because for some of us, it's like what doesn't get germinated, right? And for others, it's like how we really do hang the sun up after what we've grown from, you know, if that cross, well, maybe we weren't planted that way. Maybe we didn't go in upside down. Maybe we've just been growing from inside of this bubble. Maybe we learned how to hang this here. And so I'm hearing for some of you all, it's like taking a look at even little things like this and seeing where your imagination and creativity is a match, because you cannot fail with this kind of energy in a loving transmission. And that's one of the secrets of this transit that's happening over the next couple of days between Saturn and Neptune in retrograde, where we get to revisit what it is and how it got graded in our exchange of mutual divine loving energy as an output and an exchange of free flow, and what it is to give the pen a new tune that we write together. What it is to go backwards, you know, Neptune, what? New tune? Pen tune? Mighty pen is what? In your hands. And where we don't get that confused with anything else, with stripes, slashes, you know, putting space in there. Just slip a bar and see what scents rise through spirits in the chase. So many opportunities here for us to witness what this has been and what gets done with a pen and what it means to have been formed in the way that we chose on this day at 27 degrees, when we looked at that Taurus moon degree together as a way to articulate what we've been designing in this forest of trees that might look like you and me as wax figurines, those ear things that the bee candles wax so well, in front of the quince as the queen who wishes only for the best. And so, this is the kind of place that we are now, where we can whisper it to ourselves like that and know how we choose to land and what things can never land around us and why it's such a mystery to them. They will continue to talk about those mysteries as they carry off that scald. And these storms prove what it is for us to be safe in this birth. So, might want to look into C2019 C4 and learn about the trajectory of that thing that we landed in our ear thing together. Love you guys. Yeah, all right. I'll end it there. But if you would like some more, feel free to hit me up. You see how to get a reading with me. It's also in the description below if you would like one. If I don't hear from you, take care. Know that I love you. And I'll see you soon when we're back for another one. And yeah, I still haven't done the unboxings yet. It's gotten really busy. And I've been working on this navigational piece, you know? Making sure this thing lands right. And still haven't heard about that Twitch thing. Curious about what they found out about how many days it takes for them to respond to that creation module where he locked himself in there for $5 footlongs and shakes on mistake. It's a big mistake. So I'm going to be doing that unboxing video soon. Maybe just here on YouTube. YouTube has been pretty good. So you to be or not to be, if you'd like to meet me back later, I will probably be here to take a look at some of these other cards, because until I know that Twitch is doing the right thing with those Subway bastards on that $5 footlong subscription on a discount container wheel, I want to make sure that only ass ETs get hypothecated that way and land in the junket, and that none of mine that have been safe with children end up in a false design. And so I've been on a little bit of a strike until I make sure that that energy has been finite divided. All right, be safe, y'all. Love you. Bye.